All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a golf video, and not just any golf video. We have the Masters tournament to jump into in today's video for 2024. Got a bunch of plays coming your way. As always, guys, keep an eye on the pinned comment of the video. What we'll do during this video is kind of go through the course and some players that, at first look I'm starting to like, and I think that they fit the course fairly well. But everything that I'm rolling with, so my actual plays, are going to be in the pinned comment if those do interest you. But yeah, Masters Week. There's literally nothing like it. What does Jim Nantz say? A tradition unlike any other, something like that. Very, very excited to jump into this one. First, we can kind of look at some course stuff, like I said, and then I want to dive into some of the players that I'm liking so far. We got about 10 or 11 that are on my list, anywhere from, heavy-ish favorites to kind of long shots, so we'll kind of talk through all of that. But guys, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. Before we do jump into the video, if you want to check out some of the merch that we have here on the channel, go ahead and check it out. It's fademe.store. I'll also put that in the pinned comment here, but we got tons of new things over there as of right now if you do want to support us and pick up some great merch. Again, that is fademe.store. We'll put that link in the pinned comment, but let's jump into some of the course breakdown here. Overall, we're going to hop over to Bet the Number. Make my camera a little bit smaller, and here we go. So you can see greens and regulations going to be huge here. Realistically, approach shots, right? Scrambling also kind of tough. Now, I don't think that strokes around the green are going to be ultra important, because you're not going to be coming from any tough lies, but those tight lies around the green, which there is plenty of those around these greens at Augusta, those are going to be important. And honestly, it's not the chipping part. I think it's more or less where you landed on the green and then being able to get up and down there that drives this number down. So yes, we'll focus a little bit on around the green, but it's not necessarily scrambling in your traditional thought or standpoint about it. Birdies per round, less than tour average. We know that, right? Bogeys per round, more than tour average. We know that. Bogey avoidance, definitely going to be something that we're looking at here. Par 3 scoring, kind of right on par, no pun intended, with tour average. Same thing with par 4. And then par 5 scoring, definitely tough here. We're going to want to be focusing on plenty of par 5 scoring. If we look over here, in terms of driving, Bet the Number says this is a near 8 Bomber's Paradise type of a course. We're looking at the last 3 years here. If we make it the last 5, that number gets even better. So as this loads, you'll see that was 7.8 out of 10 in terms of them ranking it as a Bomber's Paradise. Once we look at the top 5, I believe it jumps to 8 or actually over 8. So yeah, you can see here, if we scroll down, 8.1 Bomber's Paradise. So distance definitely matters. Off the tee is going to be massive for us. If you can drive it far here, drive it straight and accurate, you're going to have a massive advantage because you're going to have a lot of long irons into these greens, which are very firm, hard to hold, and everything like that. You can see the approach shot distribution. Most approach shots are actually coming from that 126 to 175. Very few of these little chips. So a lot of focus on long irons this week. We have that built into our model as well. And you can see here, most of those, like we said, those around the green shot distribution, the blue is from fairways. So a lot of, tight lies and whatnot, not your traditional scrambling or around the green where you're in rough or in a bunker or in some sort of other, environment. It's mostly going to be from the fairway. So all stuff that we're going to consider as we look into this. If we look at recent successes dating back to the past 5 years, looking at guys that finished top 5, we're just kind of using our eyeballs here to try and see where the green lies, right? You could see last year's winner, Jon Rahm, was kind of green across the board, tied second, but notice where the red's coming in. Off the tee. This means these guys were not gaining strokes off the tee, yet they still finished top 5, right? There's tons of red if we scroll down here. Same thing with around the green. It's not necessarily something we need to focus on. It's not all that consistent. And surprisingly, putting actually isn't the focus here, which everyone thinks of Augusta, and it makes sense of you need to be a good putter and all that. I agree you need to be a good putter, but what I think you realistically need to do, especially looking at past winners like Scotty Scheffler in his past 4 times here, winning it once, having 3 other top 20s, he only gained strokes putting in 2 of those. So what I'm trying to say here is that yes, putting is important, but it's almost like, are you on or off? Are you feeling it or are you not feeling it when putting these rare Augusta greens? It's not necessarily like, oh, if you're a traditionally good putter, you're going to putt here. That isn't at all how it's going to work. And you can see, like I said, around the green, red, but where we see very few red bars here is going to be strokes gained on the approach. You can see top 5, top 3. If you want to be able to finish in the top 1, 2, or 3, or top 5, strokes gained on the approach is going to be where you need to kind of make your hay. So all that being said, we do have a list of a bunch of players that I do think fit the course fairly well. But just to recap here, I'll look at my notes. Some of the things that we want to look at. Well, we didn't mention this yet, but experience at Augusta matters. I don't think there's any other course or tournament in golf that experience at the specific course matters. There's plenty of courses out there that recent form matters and how are you playing and heading into it. That still matters at Augusta. I definitely don't want to take a guy that isn't playing well here because it's such a challenging and daunting course, but experience year over year at this course is imperative. And one thing that we note, and just looking at the guys that have won and placed over the years, aggressive play doesn't necessarily bode well. You want to hit it far, you want to hit it deep, but it's more or less the guys that can grind, not put up big numbers, like we talked about bogey avoidance. So, guys that don't make bogeys and just kind of play calculated golf should fare pretty well here. And again, when it comes to our golf betting, I love tournament matchups and all that. More often than not, we're taking like top 20, top 10s. I'm not the best winner predictor out here. So that type of grinding really, really works in that sense, because if you have a matchup and a guy's playing aggressive and you have the grinder, the calculated player, if that guy puts up a big number in one day of the tournament, it could literally impact, like if he puts up on, an amen corner or whatever, puts up whatever Sergio did. I forget what hole that was years back, put up like a 14, right? That literally ends that tournament. Like, you end up winning that matchup. But anyways, just keep going here. Off the tee is going to be massive for me, but it's going to come with a sort of tie or a handcuff to distance. I don't just want strokes gained off the tee overall. I do want strokes gained that guys that hit it far, and we have that built into the model. You'll see in a little bit as well. And then par 5 scoring. This is going to matter. Again, we looked at all of those approach shots, where the dispersion of approach shots come from, and we want some long, guys that hit their long irons well, or guys that can get out ahead with the driver. This is a huge driver course. Like we just said, 14 of the 18 holes are driver holes, which is pretty much like, if it's a par 4 or par 5, you're driving the ball, right? And I've seen plenty of other people talking on the internet just about that. Like, if your driver's hot, you keep it going. And then I would say the last couple things to note here, like I said, around the green, it's not going to be super crucial, but we want guys that can play off of those tight lies. We have that factored in as well. And then putting, we have strokes gained putting. Why wouldn't you put that in it? And if you're going to win Augusta, you do have to putt well. But we're not necessarily looking at how they've been putting as of late. We're looking how they putt on these bent grass greens, which is as close to we can get to simulate, Augusta, who's going to be rolling at a crazy, crazy rate and everything like that. But why don't we jump into our model, which is on Bet the Number. No affiliation. Hopefully at some point we can work together. But this is just a very, very good tool for betting on golf here. So we have a bunch of our things thrown in here. Recent form, event history as well if you need it. We'll throw event history on there for now, but really we have strokes gained off the tee, driving accuracy, driving percentage of 300 plus. Again, if you can hit it far, that's going to give you such an advantage. Strokes gained on the approach, but specifically we break out strokes gained on the approach for 175 plus. In fact, maybe we should move this up so it gets a little bit less confusing. We could put that strokes gained approach to the green right here, so it's next to the other one. All right, that should make it a little bit easier to see. So we have strokes gained right next to strokes gained. Easy enough. And again, we're kind of focusing on, with this strokes gained, it's 175 plus. So any of these big long irons that we need to see. We have strokes gained around the green, but we did filter it to overseed chipping areas, which is what Augusta has, as well as rye bluegrass rough. Then we have putting here, obviously, apex over the last 24 rounds, greens in regulation, bogey percentage, so bogey avoidance, and then par 5 scoring average, everything that we're looking at. And you can see a lot of these guys, so if we filter this to outright, Scheffler, Rory, and Jon Rahm, we actually don't have starred, Mostly because one, I feel like Rory's got the bug here at Augusta. Like it should, if you look at his last few rounds, tied 5 cut, second cut. Maybe he has a good round here. Obviously, he's still searching for that green jacket. Scotty Scheffler, to me, is just out of betting contention, unless you're taking him outright, which even still at plus 450 doesn't get the juices flowing for me. Like, to only have to bet him to win, he's just too good right now, essentially. Jon Rahm is someone that I considered, because if you look at across what we're looking at, it's green across the board, except for driving. But if you follow Live Golf, like, he hasn't really been playing well. I still think that he may be the best golfer on the planet, and he's a defending champion. But as of right now, like, we don't really know too much about how he's coming in, and I don't necessarily love the idea of betting on him. Where we start to get to some favorites that we like, I don't mind Xander here. You can see kind of green across the board, really good Augusta history, except for this 2022 missed cut. Hideki Matsuyama, former winner a few years back, finishing top 16 in the last 4 here. We definitely like to see that. Brooks, I don't have pegged here just because of those around the green. Like, that just looks terrible. You could put up some big scores. Same thing with Jordan Spieth. Like, kept these guys off. Jordan Spieth also not the best par 5 scorer. So those are some of the favorites. And even actually, before we jump in, one more sort of decent odds guy to look at that I decided not to is Bryson. Like, he's number 1 in driving percentage above 300, right? Number 1 in strokes gained off the tee because of how far he hits it. Hits it the highest in the field right now in his last 24. The problem is that driving accuracy, right? And course history. Remember when I said aggressive players don't always do well here? Well, you're not going to find many guys more aggressive than Bryson, and it kind of shows in his history. Last 3 years, right around, right here is when he got big and bulky and started hitting it far. Worse. So I like Bryson personally. I know that's a fairly controversial player, but overall, Augusta just isn't the course for him. Is he good enough to go out there and go low? No kidding. But from a betting perspective, I don't think there's value there. So let's flash over to my favorites. Like I said, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 names that I do like here. Most of which were kind of hunting that top 20, top 10 range. And I like all these guys in matchups, depending on what matchups we can get. So again, keep an eye on the pinned comment. That is where all of my final plays and literally my listed out matchups will be. Most likely doing this all on DraftKings because they have by far some of the most offerings when it comes to matchups. But Xander Schauffele here, like I said, probably my favorite in terms of favorites in this tournament. 6th best to the field here in strokes gained off the tee, and everything that doesn't have a specific, last 24 or anything. It's either last 10 rounds or last 15 rounds, depending on what I put into the model there. So Xander, strokes gained off the tee, 6th best. You can see driving accuracy and driving percentage, not red, so he doesn't lose much there. It's not like a bad ranking. In fact, I don't really mind 24th best in 300 plus yard drives, but strokes gained on the approach, definitely good. Not middle of the pack, upper middle of the pack in that 175 plus. Around the green is where he's going to look good. Obviously a decent putter, but this is where we get into it, right? Par 5 scoring, he's top 12. Bogey avoidance, he's 13th. And greens in regulation, which can matter here. We haven't mentioned it much, but you can see I have no red greens in regulation in my players here. But really, bogey avoidance in par 5 is what I'm loving. And with the exception of 2022, Xander is a machine here at Augusta. Tied 2nd, tied 17th, tied 3rd, and tied 10th in his last 5. Recent form, we know he's been playing fairly well as well, right? So we do like to see that. Moving on to, the next shortest odds here. Hideki Matsuyama, the only thing I worry about is his putting. But again, if you're feeling it at Augusta, you can go out there and win. It's not necessarily like you have to be a traditionally good putter. You just have to be adapted over those 4 days to putting at Augusta. But he's really going to eat up some strokes here on strokes gained. I love seeing this 4th one in terms of strokes gained approach on those longer iron shots. And like I said, he won here before, and his track record hasn't been all that bad here either. So I definitely like him for maybe a top 10. Same thing with Xander, maybe laddering it up to outright. Where we start to get into some of the matchup plays, I think that this could be a really good one depending on what matchups we can get. Joaquin Niemann here. I don't necessarily like him top 10, top 5 outright. I do. I don't mean to say I don't like it. It's not necessarily like a lock in my brain. The reason I have him on here is, one, getting those strokes gained off the tee. We know he hits it far, fairly accurate. I wouldn't say accurate, but not like terribly inaccurate, okay? But this is what stuck out to me. Number one in the field on these long iron shots. Is he the best iron striker and whatnot? Not necessarily, but in terms of strokes gained, nobody better in the field than him right now, which you love to see. And he's not going to lose many strokes around the green, which is good to see. Bogey avoidance, can he get in trouble? Sure, he may blow up, can be aggressive at times, which could kind of backfire. But what I like is tied 40th, tied 35th, tied 16th last year. He's done nothing but get better over and over again at Augusta. Don't hate that. Moving on to Ludwig Aberg. Talk about a guy that, we can bet on his recent form here. Tied 25th, 8th, tied 14th. He's looking good. And you can see I keep bouncing back between event history and recent form because both of those matter here. I think event history is a little bit more of what I'd put some weight on, but we don't have that with Aberg. Second best strokes gained off the tee. He's going to hit it fairly far. The long irons, not as good as some of the other guys we've looked at here. Around the green, not as great, but look at how we finish it out with Apex. And again, we have Apex in there just so these greens are so hard. Obviously, if you hit it high enough, you should be able to hold greens a little bit better than some other guys. So I have that in there. It's not the biggest of weight in this model, but it's definitely something we considered. But 3, 4, 5, 17th in the field when it comes to Apex, greens and regulation, bogey avoidance with shoes, and then even par 5 scoring. So Aberg, definitely a guy that I like, for something like top 20. We move on to another guy that we haven't seen at Augusta, Clark, Wyndham Clark, who honestly has been playing really good golf. We look at his recent form, like you can't tip your nose at it. API second, Players second. These elevated events he's showing up for. I know he was in full swing and working with a sports psychologist, but just look at the green across the board. I don't even have to say much about it. He's got no red on here, barely any gray. I do like Wyndham Clark. I just wonder, are his odds a little bit too juiced because of how he's been playing, and we don't know how he's going to play at Augusta. Sahith Theegala. First Masters appearance, top 10 last year. Strokes gained on the long iron, not all that great, but everything else looking pretty good for him. He's definitely worth considering in some matchups for me. Could I consider him a top 20? To be honest, I do expect a little bit of regression coming from here, but maybe top 20 could still be something that we work in. I like plus money when taking top 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, even outright, obviously, right? But the top 30 is minus 125 right now. Maybe we monitor that. If that gets closer to even odds, it's something that I would consider. But as of right now, he's probably a matchup guy. Cam Young. Tied 7th last year, kind of does everything okay overall. Putts well, again, that's not our biggest focus. Hits the ball high, that can be helpful. And then par 5 scoring, he's all right in. So this is definitely a matchup play for me. I don't envision rolling with, top 30 or any ladder with Cam Young. Tyrrell Hatton here. This is one that, I didn't have originally on here because of how poor he's been at Augusta, but top 5 par 5 scoring average here in his last, I believe we have this in his last 15 rounds, everyone's last 15 rounds. Top player in terms of bogey avoidance. Greens and regulation he's strong at, and he's hitting the long irons really well too. So maybe this is a ladder play for us to have like a sneaky, maybe he gets better, right? He had a top 20 in the past. Maybe we get him up into top 20, top 10, something like that. Kind of a sneaky one. Again, he wasn't originally on my list, but then after I looked at these numbers, I was like, I think we have to include Tyrrell Hatton here. Now let's move this camera over. Actually, I'll just make it smaller so you guys can see who we're looking at here. But Shane Lowry next on the list. We have a few others. This is where we kind of get into, I guess, long-ish shot territory. I would say the last two guys are more long shots for me, but anything plus 150 and beyond for top 20, I don't mind taking. Obviously, these are guys that are, plus 6,000 and beyond to win the damn thing. But Shane Lowry, honestly checking a lot of boxes here. Plenty good when it comes to event history, tied 3 and tied 16th last 2 years here. In terms of recent form, he's looked okay as well. And then from everything that we're looking at, right, the 175 plus yards approach, 16th best in the field, 6th best par 5 scoring. He's avoiding bogeys and gaining some strokes off the tee as well, and just on the approach overall. So definitely like his spot. Corey Connors. this is pretty much what we're looking at, right? This is when we're getting into dark-ish horse territory, though I think that he is a guy that's, played really well at Augusta. He missed the cut last year, but he's not going to, do too poorly on these par fives. And his strokes gained on the approach, we only have a few guys in here that are better than him, and one from the overall approach and then from the 175 and out. So I definitely think that he could be in some consideration. My concern is he's not gaining many strokes off the tee, which is definitely one of our biggest things to look at. And his driving accuracy is the only guy on this list that is actually poor at that. And then honestly, my biggest sleeper of the week. Again, we don't have any long shots, but this is freaking Augusta, right? Like, you're not going to have a nobody unless your name's Danny Willett come out here and prove a bunch of people wrong. But Keegan Bradley, top 30 for plus 190 for a guy that, played decently last year, has some decent looks here when it comes to what we're seeing. No reds. Like, if he goes out there and talk about a grinder, right? Like, this guy could make some moves. Do I think he wins it? No, he definitely has the game that he can, but I don't necessarily think he wins it. But for the odds we're getting for, top 30 for him, I do think that this could be a nice move. And I want to know if we can get him in some sort of matchups, because this is what I'm talking about. We don't have the greens, but a lot of these guys, when you see green across the board, it comes with a red or two here and there, which kind of goes back to what I was saying about the aggressive player. Keegan's going to be more of that calculated, less aggressive player that can just grind for 4 straight days, and all of a sudden you look up and he beat his matchup by like 3 or 4 shots, right? So I do think that there's a chance that we could sprinkle on him. But guys, again, this is the list. Go ahead and take a screenshot if you want this data and everything like that to be able to follow it. Most likely we're going to be looking at matchups for these guys. That is not to say my preferred golf betting way, but I do love matchups. We're hitting our matchups at a crazy clip this year. We've had a good YouTube golf run in our 4 videos so far doing the elevated tournament. So I guess no matter what we're doing okay. Hopefully we keep that up. But man, I am excited for this tournament. Hopefully you guys are too. If you're watching this, I'm sure you are. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Keep an eye on the pinned comment, okay? All my plays will be down there, but we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.